Hi, Don Allen and Debbie Burkart from Voices from the Middle. And I'm going to have to work around my allergies today, so very sorry. This is our podcast called Rights, Risks, and Responsibility. It's a discussion of mental health and violence, guns specifically. We have joining us today Tabetha Davis. Tab is a paraprofessional who's gone through ALICE training at both the first and secondary levels. She's also the proud mother of 4 perfect children, whom she shares with her husband of 21 years. I would say also perfect, but he's my nephew. Welcome to Voices. We're excited to have you with us. If you enjoy the discussions, please like and follow our podcast. Okay. So guns and mental health have both been vitally important issues to address. The two sides of the aisle waste their time in pissing contests and voluntary ignorance rather than tackle the complex issue head on. Whether it's political cowardice or big money influences is of no importance to me. What is important to me is the thousands of lives ruined every year by our global neglect of these 2 vital issues. We can't begin to cover these issues in one podcast, so we will revisit in the future. For today, we're focusing on ALICE, one of many initiatives in use since the breakout of mass shootings in the U.S. According to their webpage, ALICE teaches response options that can be used to stay safe in the event of a violent critical incident. The acronym stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Tab, how about you explain to us what this training involves?
Well, we do a training first before all the kiddos get there, but the bigger training, I think, is when they are in class. And at the first, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade levels, the teachers are explaining how they'll barricade the door, where we would go if we need to leave. And they're very much vocal about follow me, follow my directions. And you will inevitably have kids crying. It is a scary subject, and they don't know how to process what we're telling them, because we're telling them you must take it serious, because in the event of an intruder, it is a serious moment. So we can't even lighten it for their age. It's just, and that's a hard thing. Then when you get to the secondary level, and not all teachers are like this, but some of them are like, okay, I'm leaving, you guys can follow me. It's no longer a follow me. There's a lot less hand holding. They're more of the mind that you guys are closer to adulthood. So I'm running, please get yourself to safety. But if you're freaking out in the corner, I'm not going to stay with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was not all of them, but it was a few of them. And I was like, oh, please hold her hand. But it does give you the mind where if there is an intruder and my children are in the building, what do I do? Mm-hmm. So we just learn about barricading the door, the best exits, the place to meet up afterwards. And then they have started really enforcing fighting back, throwing things, taking your shoes off. And that, again, was a startling thing. But they're starting to realize that just telling these kids, oh, we're going to try to shut and lock the door, that's not actually going to help us. That the intruders are getting in and they're shooting all of these children. We're going to have to start doing something. And that is our first line of defense, is starting to fight back.
And that's what they're teaching to adults, right?
Yeah.
Is that same, make sure that you're willing to step in if you need to.
Yeah, to be there. And yeah, they did. They teach us that we watch videos of The ones that survive are because the teacher has gotten in the way. And that is, I don't know about you. That was maybe a little more than I signed up for, especially for my pay.
Yeah, for your pay.
Are most of the schools in your experience, do they have windows?
Not that we can open.
Okay.
No, we can just, guy can shoot through them.
Yeah.
But you can't get out of them.
No, we couldn't open them. Yeah, we have to have exits where we know we're running. And the informed part of that is if you know you've seen the guy walk by maybe, then you can get on the intercom or you can say, intruder seen at this area. So then those classrooms that are far away from there, they're leaving. They're getting out of the building where everyone else is going to have to bear it because the intruder is close. But I can only imagine getting on the intercom in that moment. You hear shots. Yeah.
Why don't you tell me what you found out when you researched?
Well, way back yonder, when I was getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, I heard the term, it's not the finger that pulls the trigger, it is the trigger that pulls the finger. So I went back and did a little research on that, and it is called the weapons effect. And there's been over 50 studies that have shown this to be true, that just the presence of a weapon incites violence, increases violence. And so when we're talking about school shooters, if they have a weapon available at home, even that can act to incite more of their violence. I got that information from Psychology Today, from Professor of Communication and Psychology from Ohio State University, Dr. Brad Bushman. Another article in Psychology Today by Scott Vaughn talks about the increase of these mass shootings in the last few years. And I just want to throw those out just to point out how critical it is for us to act and understand how to keep ourselves safe. There's been a 52.5% increase in mass shootings since the period of 2017 to 2021. I have to read my notes here. In 2021, there were 61 active shooter incidents. In 2020, there was only 40. And in 2017, there was only 13. So you can see how it's rising out of control. When you go from 13 to 61, that's an incredible increase. This author says that he would not call most of these shooters insane, but not that they're not mentally ill. He feels like they know and have planned what they're going to do, which he says means they're not insane. But isolation, being bullied, wanting vengeance, all of those things play in. I'm sorry, I'm turning my page. Many shooters are socially isolated, disconnected. One author even says that declining beliefs in the American dream, the distrust of the government, racism, xenophobia, religious and gender biases, hate crimes, and domestic terrorism also are adding to this fear and inability to trust what's going on in the world. And he feels like that may play a part as well. So we are talking about mental health along with that. I have getting back to the weapons effect, the trigger pulls the finger. I have a personal experience with that. I have a family member whose son, he and his wife got into an argument. There happened to be a gun on the table. In the process of the argument, she reached for the gun and he beat her to it and shot her in the face and killed her. Then he killed himself. If the gun had not been there, that would have never happened. And it's possible she might have hit him and he might have hit her, but they probably wouldn't have killed each other.
And I think is that we've spent so many years here coming along after the fact and saying, well, how can we fix the problem as it's happening? Or how can we fix it after the fact? There's a problem before the gun ever gets involved. And in particular with young people, they are a mass of hormones. And if they have issues of depression, if they are bullied, or even if they're just like categorized, and this is common in school. You're the kid that's not in the cool group, and maybe you're not in the intellectual group, and you wind up in what they call the misfit group. Or worse yet, even the misfits won't take you. And what happens is at some point, and when it all gets to be too much for that teen with all those hormones raging, is he decides, okay, there's been one girl, but typically it's males.
Yeah.
He decides that he's going to take his life, but he's going to take them with him. And that's that hormones and the immaturity and those kinds of things.
Suicide by cop.
It's suicide. But you raise all things 4 boys. What kinds of things do you need to do in the home to make sure your kids are balanced as well as able to care for themselves and those around them?
Tabitha.
I've had 3 boys, so I thought she was talking
Oh, that's right, boys.
Okay, that is tricky because I do feel like my kids came up when phones were and iPads and YouTube and things were just kind of beginning. And so I feel now that we should have done a better job maybe being on top of parental things because we tried to pay attention to what they were watching, but it was one of those things where I thought, oh, is it like a TV show? So I would say I think paying attention to what your kids are interested in is a big point because because the way the internet works, it's going to continue to send your child the things that they stop on, the things that they look at. And so if maybe they stopped on one of those videos, well, now they're getting inundated with things that they maybe wouldn't have, like you said, those hormones. And then Billy was mean to me today, and now it's all I'm getting on my internet. And it just becomes this explosion. And then,
which in seriousness, as somebody who's in a classroom for close to 30 years, that is common, right?
Yes.
I mean, kids are like that. But the problem is when there's not a trust, right?
Yeah.
And for these kids that are isolated, there's no trust. So if you make fun of me, it's a problem.
Well, and that's another training we do at the school is to be watching for those suicidal tendencies so that we can maybe put ourselves in a position to be a trusted adult, which with some of those kids, it is tricky. There's a reason their walls are high, but that is our training and is our goal is to continue to build these relationships, which is probably the best step they've taken.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, doing Alice training when I don't want guns in my school is terrible, but being able to connect with the kids does actually feel like I'm doing something positive.
Well, one of the things for these young people is they don't have anybody at home always to trust or that they even feel like cares. And I know I was one of the teachers that was there a lot late into the evening because I had a kid in crisis. There were a lot of teachers who did that. That's not our job. But if you care about kids,
yes,
you got to do that,
as opposed to being a good teacher.
Yeah. So, you're also a counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in all the research I did and all the things I read, a social connection is so important. And just in my own experience, I was a very, very shy kid. And we moved around a lot, which made it difficult to make friends. And so I felt isolated at school. However, I had a fabulous family, and we did a lot of fun things together, and our extended family was wonderful. And so I never felt, oh, I hate those people, I'm going to, whatever. I just accepted that I didn't fit in and focused on the other relationships. But for a lot of kids, that's not possible. And all they've got is school. That's their social connection.
Yeah.
My whole family was concerned because they moved the boundaries the year I was going to high school, and I was being sent to an inner city school. And people who know me now don't believe it, but I was afraid of my own shadow. I was quiet and shy, and I was a disaster. And so my mom put me in speech, theater, and newspaper my very first year. I mean, I wanted to crawl inside my skin, you know what I'm saying? But what happened was, by my mom doing that, instead of being an outsider, I became an outsider on the inside of all the nerds.
Yeah.
Right? I was with the theater group. I was with the speech group. I was with the newspaper and yearbook people. So I wasn't with the popular group, but I had a group. Right?
Yeah. That was helpful.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the parents knowing their children.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't worry about my brother going to an alls. And Tabetha knows my brother. That was not going to be a problem, him going to Wyandotte. But even he was worried about his little sister going to Wyandotte. So, but it made the difference for me because I had wonderful high school years, and I came out of it, and then the whole damn family wanted me to go back because they liked me better shy. But
well, within my own family, I was not shy. I was kind of a loudmouth, but you get me in a group of people I didn't know, and I shut down. Yeah.
Well, even my husband at one point said to me, "Do you remember when I first met you? Could you go back to that?" And I said, "Not really. I didn't like her very much."
Yeah.
So
I had a different experience because I would say my home life was pretty dramatic. So I did tend to find those teachers who stuck around, because I would say as a kid who you don't feel like you can trust some of the people at home, you are still, you're looking for those people to make the connection. So yeah, it's there, and I hope more of these kiddos can, I don't know, start to.
And although it wasn't mentioned in any of my research, I think economics also plays a role. If you're from a family that's in poverty or just above poverty, parents are working hard just to pay the rent and buy the groceries, and they're not as available, and they're super stressed out. So they're less aware of what's going on with their kids. And I feel like our economics does play a role in that.
yeah, I don't think we can ignore that. I think, and Debbie and I have talked about this before, we've lost our sense of community. And I think, Tab, some of that comes from all the technology, right? We've climbed into our machines.
Yeah.
And, I have great relationships with total strangers, but I don't know who lives across the street from me.
Yeah.
That community, that's essential for kids. It's really important because if they can't find mom and dad and somebody's trying to kidnap them off the street, they need to know there's a house in that neighborhood they can go to.
Yeah.
And we need to build our communities back.
I hadn't really thought of that, but that's absolutely true, because if you know all your neighbors and everybody knows each other and watches out for each other's kids, then when a kid feels like he's in trouble, he knows he's got a place to go. And we've lost a lot of that.
Why?
Well, Tab, because
go ahead, Tabitha.
That's what I was asking. Like, why do you think we've lost so much of the community? Like, I raised my cul-de-sac, and it was a good thing. And we didn't know our neighbors and did things together. But I get what you're saying, especially as we've moved to a new neighborhood, that my desire to go meet these people is pretty absent. And I don't really know why. Is it
for me, I'm still that shy kid.
Okay.
I don't. You can ask Debbie. If there's an invitation on the table, I'll find a reason not to take it. I'm afraid of social situations.
Well, and I think a lot of people build their community in the workplace. You become friends with the people you work with. You share much more of your life with the people you see every day and less with your neighbors. And so that plays a role. I think we have to try harder than perhaps people in the past did to create those more local communities that will benefit your children.
Well, and I think that we can't ignore the parenting element.
Yeah.
And Tab, you have 3 really super young men. You've got a daughter who is way older than I want her to be. How do you do it? How do you parent? My God, 2 almost killed me.
Well, staying home definitely helped. I got to, which it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a lifelong dream that I had. It just was. It was just cheaper to stay home with them than not. And then I was just super engaged. Growing up with a mother that was not. I followed just the opposite, which was pretty easy. Like, oh, okay, I'll just pay attention then.
Yeah.
And then I was just engaged with my kids pretty much all the time. So that was good, and it built a strong foundation for the rest of their lives. Like they'll call and then we did raise them primarily in the cul-de-sac, so I do feel like they got that sense of community.
Yeah.
But as they're older, and then the phones, and like we're saying, I feel like they get their sense of connection from their phone already. Oh, I was on with my friend. I don't need to go to the mall. But we need to get out and see people, and so because I know I push for it, and I can be pushy. So I think that helps. And then Josh, maybe the fact that he's done well, which a lot of it just comes from what then pushing you towards, like, his dad had some financial trouble through his life. So Josh was determined not to.
Yeah.
He has savings and builds, and then so his kids see his work ethic and just what he does, and then follow suit. I don't know, that kind of
But I think at the root, our country has become too segregated, not necessarily by race, although that is a problem, but we segregate ourselves by our workplace and our churches and whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of being more inclusive.
Yeah. Well, and Facebook made it really clear what your interests are. So you
Yeah.
can get more. Well, I don't like that. Well, I don't like that. Sarah and
Yeah.
I have some similar interests, so I'll just hang out with her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
okay. Where before it was, you didn't even know, you didn't talk about it, so it didn't even matter. You
Yeah.
just hang out.
Yeah. One
Well,
thing my daughter has noticed, she's 40, and once her childhood friends that they all just kind of branched out in separate lives and got busy, she realized she didn't have any friends to do things with, and she really struggled. How do adults make friends? And she has finally, through her daughter's into gymnastics, and she's made friends with some of the other moms. And
Yep.
yeah,
That's how I became friends with some of my friends, is that
yeah,
the kids get to pick their friends, and then I'm like, oh, he's cool. Okay, I can hang out with his mom.
yeah,
well, I've never forgotten the first time that John and I went to a dinner without the kids.
Whoops. Excuse the dogs. They saw something out the window.
It doesn't take much. John and I sat there across the table from each other. It was at Applebee's. And except for when the waitress came to take our meal, we said nothing. We had forgotten how to interact as adults.
Yeah.
We'd been so busy and so focused on raising the kids that it was like, oh, do you live here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
That early empty nest. Yeah. We've kind of gotten off topic, but I still think this plays into some of the causes that leave kids so isolated and so angry and vengeful.
Well, they feel they have nowhere else to turn, right? I can't go to my parents. I can't go to school officials because
They blow
it
me
won't
off.
fix the problem.
Yeah.
It'll just draw a target on me. And so at some point, they just feel like they have no other choice but to end it. And because they have all those hormones flying, I'm going to take somebody with me. Somebody's going to pay for what I've gone through.
Yeah. I think that's kind of at the bottom of most of them.
I do feel like we're trying to get better about being engaged with our children. A lot of what Courtney has to do is, health stuff. And even in the physicals, they ask questions now.
Good.
Yeah, so it feels like they're trying to at least pay attention to the mental health part if they're not going to pay attention to the gun safety part, which for me, I mean, I know like in other countries they have a mass shooting and then they just outlaw guns and then there's no more
shooting. Yeah.
We're not that smart.
No, well, us are. No. It just seems to be that I feel like at least at the school level they're trying to pay attention. Now, some kids obviously are rolling their eyes or answering it.
Yeah.
But it's at least gonna put up, like in Courtney's on her physical, it's at least gonna put up some red flags. Oh, well, they answered this, and I feel like, and we have an SRO officer that I feel like is getting trained better to be more aware of what we're dealing with, whether it's just because we had a kiddo have a panic attack in class, and nobody knew what they were supposed to do. Yeah. So it helps because the first SRO came in and was just like, what are you on? I need to know what you're taking. He thought he was having a drug related illness.
Right.
And it was not. It was just a panic attack, but yeah, I think that the schools are trying. Now our funding is getting cut. We just got an email that the funding for mental health and Title I is being cut. So just to keep wishing us luck. We're just gonna be
It would be nice if the government would stand behind you guys.
Oh,
If they would care about kids.
Yeah.
Other than what they're reading.
I mean, yeah, sure, care about what they're reading, but
Yeah,
that I've
but
never
don't care about them getting shot.
the reading thing. Courtney and I, when she was in elementary school, she got given a book, The Tale of Despereaux.
Mhm.
And so we read it together, and there's a part where the dad sells the daughter for a cigarette and a blanket or something. And I remember the moment because I looked at her and I was like, would your dad do that? And she's like, no. And we just laughed and went on. Where
Yeah.
it became where parents were contacting the schools very upset. My child. And I was like, you can't just talk to your kid? Please, just
Yeah.
tell your kid
Yeah.
that life isn't always easy for everybody.
That's right.
Be a good
And-
person. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time.
Oh.
I want to thank Tab for joining
Yes.
us today,
Thank you
Tabitha
very much.
Davis. I know Debbie and I really enjoyed your insights.
Yes.
I hope we can all fight for a more positive America by keeping the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
To the audience, thanks for joining Debbie and I for another lively Voices from the Middle. Our podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Riverside FM, Podbean, Tumblr, Facebook, YouTube, and our websites, donallenwrites.com and Debbie Burkart at .wordpress.com.
Yeah.
See you in August for our conversation on human rights in the U.S.
That'll be a good one. Thank you for having me, guys.
It was a pleasure.